Let us now go to pathology of qi and emotional problems. The topic is effects on internal organs. Here we can see a list of emotional problems and what internal organs it affects. Like anger, including frustration and resentment, affects the liver. Joy affects the heart. Worry affects the lungs and spleen. Pensiveness affects the spleen. Sadness and grief affect the lungs and heart. Fear affects the kidneys. Shock affects the kidneys and heart. Love affects the heart. Craving affects the heart. Guilt affects the kidneys and heart. Shame affects the heart and spleen. However, the effect of each emotion on a relevant organ should not be interpreted too restrictively. There are passages from the Yellow Emperor's Classic that attribute the effect of emotions to organs other than the ones just mentioned. For example, the spiritual axis in chapter 28 says, worry and pensiveness agitate the heart. The simple questions in chapter 39 says, sadness agitates the heart. Indeed, the whole chapter 216 of the Classic of Categories is dedicated to the discussion of the influence of each emotion on groups of organs. The Classic of Categories says, the 5 emotions interact with each other in causing disease. For example, excess joy affects the heart, but it may also affect the lungs and injure the corporeal soul or the po. Excess joy derives from the heart but moves to the lungs. Anger affects the liver but also the gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder are interiorly and exteriorly related, and when liver qi is excessive, it affects the gallbladder. When there is anger, blood rushes upwards and qi downwards, and this harasses the heart. Sometimes anger affects the kidneys and it injures the willpower. Hence, anger can affect the liver, gallbladder, heart, and kidneys. Pensiveness pertains to the spleen, but it also affects the heart. The heart is the mother of the spleen, so when the qi of the mother does not move freely, it affects the child, and therefore both spleen and heart are affected by pensiveness. Worry pertains to the lungs, but it also affects the heart. Worry makes qi rise and can affect the liver. The liver becomes overactive and it invades the spleen. The spleen is then affected by worry, and this injures the intellect, or the yi. Hence, worry affects the lungs, heart, liver, and spleen. Thus, excess joy, anger, pensiveness, and worry affect the following organs. Excess joy affect the heart and the lungs. Anger, the liver, gallbladder, heart, and kidneys. Pensiveness will affect the spleen and the heart. Worry affects the lungs, heart, liver, and spleen, and fear the kidneys, heart, liver, spleen, and stomach. The effect of an emotion on an organ depends also on other circumstances and on whether the emotion is manifested or repressed. For example, anger that is expressed affects the liver, causing liver yang rising, but anger that is repressed also affects the heart. If one gets angry at mealtimes, as sadly often happens in certain families, the anger will affect the stomach, and this will be manifested with a wiry quality on the right middle position of the pulse. The effect of an emotion will also depend on the constitutional trait of a person. For example, if a person has a tendency to a constitutional weakness of the heart, manifested with a midline crack on the tongue extending all the way to the tip, fear will affect the heart rather than the kidneys. Furthermore, all emotions, besides affecting the relevant organ, directly affect the heart indirectly because the heart houses the mind. It alone, being responsible for consciousness and cognition, can recognize and feel the effect of emotional tension. Fei Bo-xiong put it very clearly when he said that the 7 emotions injure the 5 yin organs selectively, but they all affect the heart. Joy injures the heart. Anger injures the liver cannot recognize anger, but the heart can. Hence, it affects both liver and heart. Worry injures the lungs cannot recognize it, but the heart can. Hence, it affects both lungs and heart. Pensiveness injures the spleen. The spleen cannot recognize it, but the heart can. Hence, it affects both spleen and heart. Yu Chang in Principles of Medical Practice says, worry agitates the heart and has repercussions on the lungs. Pensiveness agitates the heart and has repercussions on the spleen. Anger agitates the heart and has repercussions on the liver, and fear agitates the heart and has repercussions on the kidneys. Therefore, all the 5 emotions, including joy, affect the heart. Chapter 28 of the Spiritual Axis also says that all emotions affect the heart. The heart is the master of the 5 yin and 6 yang organs. Sadness, shock, and worry agitate the heart. When the heart is agitated, the 5 yin and 6 yang organs are shaken. Chinese writing clearly bears out the idea that all emotions affect the heart because the characters for all 7 emotions are based on the heart radical. This is probably the most important aspect of the heart functions and the main reason for it being compared to the monarch. The way that all emotions afflict the heart also explains why a red tip of the tongue indicate heart heat. It's so commonly seen even in emotional problems related to other organs. The main effects of emotional stress are chi stagnation, blood stasis, heart or fire, and dampness or phlegm. Thank you so much for your attention.